One of your best known statements from Exploring Reality 2005 is, "It is clear that science has not demonstrated the causal nexus of the natural world." I completely agree with this statement, but is it a plea for the God of the gaps?
Well, I think that's a good question actually to ask, and a necessary one. You have to ask yourself, what's wrong with gaps? There are various sorts of gaps. Some gaps are simply gaps of current ignorance. We don't understand this, we don't know how to do that. A God of those sort of gaps is no God at all. He is always lost beyond the next intellectual horizon. As knowledge advances, he fades away. Sort of Cheshire Cat deity, really. But there are other gaps which are intrinsic, and some of them are intrinsic in the actual physical structure of the world, as science has discovered it, and some of them are intrinsic for reasons connected with metaphysics rather than science. Take the first ones. Modern science, modern physics has discovered that there are intrinsic unpredictabilities present in physical process. That's to say, unpredictabilities are not due to the fact we can't calculate accurately or we can't measure precisely. They are just there, and you can't get over them. Quantum theory tells us, for example, if you have a radioactive nucleus, it will calculate the probability of that nucleus decaying. You cannot establish whether this particular one is going to decay in the next hour or so. So there are intrinsic unpredictabilities present in nature, and that's in itself a very important discovery. After Newton's great discoveries of his dynamic equations, which were precise, exact equations, carrying precise predictions, people began to think of the world as being just a piece of enormous cosmic clockwork, all just ticking away another way. And Newton himself didn't think that, but his successors did. And so natural world, of course, is one which is causally closed under the descriptions of science. But quantum theory shows us that brought about the death of the merely mechanical. The world is something more subtle than a mere mechanism, and I would think more supple. That's one sort of form of gap. So science certainly in those terms clearly has not established the causal closure of the world, but it doesn't, for example, tell us when this is going to decay. And I think that's connected with the fact that we have powers of action within the world, which are not bring about our desires, which are not described by science, and I believe God also providentially has done that. So that's a gap which is a genuine one, and it is entirely not only fair and proper, but necessary to take into account. There are also gaps of principle involved. There are some things that science doesn't determine. Science has achieved great success by limiting itself to the questions it asks. Essentially, it asks how things happen in the process of the world. Other questions, the meaning and value and purpose and so on, it doesn't, when it's true to itself, it doesn't pretend to be able to answer. So there are big questions. I mean, perhaps the biggest metaphysical question, metaphysics of course is what's beyond physics, the metaphysical question is, Leibniz's great question, why is there something rather than nothing? Why does the world exist at all? And why does it exist with the remarkable, why the laws of nature exist with the remarkable properties that they have? We know that they have to take a very precise form if the universe was to be capable of evolving carbon-based life. In fact, even just producing carbon requires the laws of nuclear physics to take very specific quantitative form in relation to that.
Did God have any choice then?
Einstein said when he went to heaven, that was what he was going to do. First thing he was going to ask God was whether he had any choice. I think the answer is yes, he did. I mean, it's interesting at the end of Stephen Hawking's brief history, when he's explaining all about the beautiful equations of nature and so on, he then asked the question he should have asked himself earlier: what breathes fire into the equation? What gives them a world to describe? And I think God has chosen the world that we are able to describe in that sort of way.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So, I think this appeal to the openness of physical process and appeal to the beautiful structure of the world is not a vicious appeal to a God of the gaps who is just going to disappear with more knowledge.
Marvellous. Thank you very much, John. Thank you.